Watch Charlie Kirk absolutely destroy a TDS suffering leftist. Folks, I think you're going to like this. This guy talks fast, but, not fast enough. You're going to see what I mean in just a moment here. But first, I need you to do a big favor. Like our video and share it around. That way we keep bringing you guys this great, hard-hitting content. As always, Patriots, I'm your host, Darian, and this is Resist the Mainstream.
So my position is I believe Trump is antithetical to everything American, whether that is him abusing powers, going against the Constitution. Mainly those two things. His foreign policy, national policy is obviously all pretty atrocious. But if you want to talk about him abusing executive powers, I'd like to talk about that. Specifically in reference to the Mayor Adams case, where he's dropping the charges without prejudice.
Go ahead.
Is that not a blatant form of corruption that
No.
he's extorting? How is dropping a charge without prejudice on a mayor that got federally indicted not corrupt?
It happens all the time. I know what you're talking about. But the charges were political in nature. President Trump got targeted by the Department of Justice. He goes out of his way to also show lawfare goes after both parties and drops the charges against a Democrat mayor, Eric Adams. Dropping charges without prejudice happens all the time. Biden did it for a lot of cases that the Trump administration had. If we want to talk abuse of power, maybe we should talk about how Joe Biden pardoned his entire family the last hour of his presidency. How Joe Biden pardoned Anthony Fauci preemptively, and Adam Kinzinger preemptively, and Liz Cheney preemptively, and Adam Schiff preemptively. Not that Donald Trump's DOJ dropped charges against Eric Adams. Joe Biden is the one that had to preemptively pardon his brother and his entire crime syndicate with the stroke of a pen the last hour of his presidency. If anybody is abusing power, it would be the prior president who didn't even know he was president, not Donald Trump.
Okay, so, you kind of pivoted there, but I will acknowledge what Joe Biden did was probably a corrupt abuse of actions. I would say abuse of power, but you also have to acknowledge Donald Trump is also abusing power in the same instant.
How? You keep saying that.
Because yes, he's extorting him because he's now letting ICE run jurisdiction in Rikers Island.
So he's abusing power by enforcing federal immigration law? Is that really the claim here? As far as I'm concerned, Trump didn't go far enough with Adams. Okay, he pardoned him over the phony allegation by Biden. Sure, that's great. But why not then, after that, arrest him for violating federal law? The sanctuary city that Adams was harboring for a very long time is a complete violation of immigration law. And same thing goes for all the Democrat mayors around the country who are allowing this lawlessness. All right, they are failing to do their basic duty of protecting the American people from foreign invasion. Arrest them all. They're violating federal law. I don't know why we don't just do it. Hell, they arrested Trump for literally nothing. So I say arrest them for something. Why doesn't it happen? What do you guys think? All right, comment below. Am I off base here? I want to know.
Okay, so what are your facts? Where are the documents? Where are the first-hand, original source testimony that show there's an extortion at play? That's a huge accusation.
So Emil Bove even said himself, the Deputy Attorney General, that he's dropping the charges not based off any evidence, but it would be because it would interfere with his mayor duties. I don't know why we should drop federal charges on someone that for mayor interfering with mayor duties. That doesn't really make sense to me. But you would acknowledge I'm confused on why you don't think this is corrupt. Him federally dropping federal charges.
Because it's not corrupt. Again, lawfare is a problem that affects both parties.
So you would agree what Joe Biden did is corrupt, but not Trump?
No. One was pardoning your family for the first time in American history. The other one is inheriting a sloppy, politically targeted case to the Department of Justice and then dismissing those charges.
But they said they're not dropping it based on the case of the evidence. They're not dropping it based on any type of evidence.
You can drop based on that's one Deputy Attorney General's interpretation. But why don't you tell me what Eric Adams was charged with?
For bribery, I believe misuse of funds. He defrauded in New York for $5 million.
Yeah, like taking international flights on Turkish Airlines. It was like this insane case.
You're downplaying it, but
of course I am. Because let's be honest, why is it that Eric Adams was indicted?
Because he got caught of committing federal crime.
No, because Eric Adams was the only blue state mayor in the country to speak out against Biden's mass migration invasion. And they used Eric Adams as an example to try to say, if you dare step out of line against the 10 million people that come across the southern border, we will come against you. But how is it an abuse of power to do what the Department of Justice is constituted to do?
Because this isn't based off any evidence. This is a federal indictment. Obviously, if you want to make the distinction that he tried, his immigration policy could be reflective of why he got charged, that is only speculation. There'd be zero proof in that. What we do know is that Mayor Adams did go to Mar-a-Lago, and then 3 days later he got the charges dropped on him without prejudice.
He seemingly just contradicted himself right there. Is that not speculation of corruption? Notice he was said it quick, but Eric Adams visited Mar-a-Lago, and then 3 days later, Trump dropped the charges, and all of a sudden, Eric Adams essentially was Trump's, servant or something. Is this what this guy seems to be suggesting? Well, you're speculating yourself. And, Charlie actually missed that, which, I get it. There's a lot going on there. The guy's talking fast, but yeah, it's incoherent. Okay, these fast talkers always drive me nuts. I always just want to be like, yo, boop, hit the pause button. Slow down, buddy. Okay, just because you talk fast doesn't mean you're smart. You're really annoying.
If it was corrupt, why is he dropping without prejudice? Why wouldn't he just drop the charges or pardon him?
Do you know what without prejudice means?
Yeah, they can bring the charges back.
Yes, that's actually
exactly.
that's even a lower grade of it, which means that if there's more evidence, then they can reintroduce charges.
But
so they didn't do it with prejudice.
But it's not based off the evidence.
I'm interested though. So out of all the examples you could use, you think Donald Trump's corrupt and abuse of power because he has dropped a politically charged motivation of the mayor of the largest state in the country?
We can go to him improperly using tariffs, calling national emergencies on Canada. He said there's a fentanyl crisis in Canada. There absolutely is.
No, there's fentanyl crisis in our country coming from Canada.
But he's saying it's happening at the northern border. That's how he's able to unilaterally accept. So do you believe do you believe him implementing tariffs is him executing his economic policy or national policy?
Well, national security, both. Yeah.
Both. Do you think? I mean, you would agree that if you're going to try stopping fentanyl from coming in the country, you would at least give them a target number to get to. He hasn't provided anything.
No, he did. That's not
what's the number?
Well, actually, it was privately discussed because you don't know that, but that's fine. It was privately discussed.
So what's the number? What is he?
I'm not going to tell you the number, but I happen to know it. But again, there was a benchmark that Canada was given in the intermediary period, Canada and Mexico. And by the way, do you know how many people die from drug overdoses every year in America?
A lot. That's not what I'm not.
Actually, it is what you're asking. It's 100. Hold on a second.
Okay.
It's absolutely what it is. It's 110,000 people die from drug overdoses, and a lot of people in South Carolina die from drug overdoses. That's a national security problem. When you have drugs flowing from a foreign country into your nation, and you use tariffs as a way to stop it, that is well within the commander-in-chief duties of the President of the United States.
Exactly. The purpose of a government is to protect its citizens. Full stop. Now, is the U.S. government doing that nowadays? It's debatable. Trump's doing some stuff for sure. In D.C., for example, he called that lockdown or rather, federalized the police, and he's making it a lot safer. That's awesome. Trump, Mr. President, please do this around the country now, all right? There are so many American cities, even like the big suburban ones like Phoenix, that just suck now. I mean, it's awful. The crime's going up. Homelessness is everywhere. Nobody cares. You call the cops. Nobody comes. I've actually had experiences with this. I reported a guy who was a drug OD. Nobody came. That's sick. All right. I called the emergency services and no one came. It's really bad out here. Please do it, Trump.
President Trump was elected to do that.
Yeah, so, I mean, we're just talking about problems. 99.8% of the fentanyl that comes in this country does not come from the northern border. The same way he's enacting national emergencies on all the countries to implement his tariffs across the world.
Well, just to be clear, the Canadian tariffs were also because more people on the terrorist watch list come across the northern border than the southern border. So it was fentanyl plus the terrorist watch list. But then you would agree the Mexican tariffs are great because almost all the fentanyl in this country come across the southern border from Mexico.
I would say you have more of a case, but I believe why Trump is enacting these tariffs is clear for his economic policy. That's probably pretty corrupt. Him revoking constitutional rights is also pretty corrupt.
Wait, hold on. What constitutional rights is he revoking?
The Fifth Amendment, First Amendment.
On who? For what U.S. citizen?
Yeah.
What U.S. citizen does not have Fifth Amendment rights?
Okay, so you would agree that other people inside the United States, like lawful permanent residents, are also getting their green cards, also getting their Fifth Amendment revoked, right?
but green card holders don't get the same constitutional rights.
Do.
No, they do not.
Hold on,
if an MS-13 member is in jail, they don't get Fifth Amendment rights.
Garcia is not an MS-13 member. That was all hearsay.
Oh, no, hold on a second.
He
was already charged for it in court documents.
No.
He's been here for 10 years. He tried to evade, and he's back in his home country of El Salvador in a much different type of environment.
Would you agree that the judge, Trump is literally ignoring judges' orders. He got a withholding for removal, correct?
Well, hold on. Tension between the second and third branch is nothing new. But explain to me how a circuit court judge, a federal judge, a district court judge has jurisdiction about what happens over international waters. Explain that to me.
No, I'm not even talking about the TROs that was implemented. I'm talking specifically about the Maryland case. How?
No, the Maryland case is that. So they scoop this guy up. They send him to El Salvador. How does a guy, a district court judge, have jurisdiction when happens international
waters?
You're
referring to Boasberg. I'm not. I'm talking about the Maryland judge that gave him withholding for removal.
I'm surprised that this guy doesn't bring up that the Trump DOJ has actually launched an initiative to strip citizenship away from American citizens. Yeah, that's not a joke. Obviously, it's people who were naturalized citizens, right? And it's denaturalizing them, which is to say they were at one point an immigrant who was not a U.S. citizen. But that's actually, I'm not going to say unprecedented because I don't know if that's true, but it certainly hasn't happened anytime recently in my lifetime. And that's something notable to bring up. Just kind of an interesting bit of knowledge there.
They violated that completely. They took him out of Maryland.
Hold on, no, you have to answer the question. The guy's in El Salvador now.
Yeah, I know. But
so then how does that judge have any jurisdiction over that?
Because you're referring to Boasberg implementing the TROs.
They're both.
I mean, if you're going to talk about him,
this Maryland judge just ordered the return of this guy in El Salvador. Yes.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, yeah. So how does that judge have jurisdiction?
I'm not even referring to that. I'm referring to 2019, way before he was granted withholding for removal. Correct?
Okay, I'm not familiar. I'm not as familiar with that.
He was granted withholder for removal, and then the ICE agents took him and deported him.
I do have to take a step back. Do you guys see how far the left fights for MS-13 members?
No.
You are fighting for that.
Because no, I'm not. I'm fighting for constitutional rights, not MS-13
Hold on a second.
members.
These illegals do not have the same constitutional rights we do. They don't vote. They don't get to vote. They can't buy firearms. They don't get the same due process. You broke our laws to come into this country. You don't get the same rights as a U.S. citizen, especially if you are part of MS-13. Especially if you are part of an enemy occupying force.
No.
And what I find, and again, this is a left-wing tactic to try to slow down the deportation effort, try to make saying, well, we need to have human rights for all the people that are coming here. Where were the human rights for the student at University of South Carolina that was just killed? Or the human rights of Lake and Riley that was just killed at the University of Georgia? And the left is intentionally trying to make permanent the enemy occupation of our land, trying to use our own customs against us for people that have never cared about our customs altogether. It is a giant scam, and I hope the deportations continue at great pace.
Once again, my point.
But are they continuing at a great pace? I think it's worth pointing out that ICE has posted no deportations data since Trump has taken office. Now, I'm rooting for the Trump administration. I want mass deportations, but so far there hasn't been data released on that, at least not by ICE. And, recently Trump came out and said that we're going to not prioritize deporting service workers. So, I don't know. Are they happening? I sure hope so. What do you guys think? I want to hear your thoughts. Comment below.
The point was not about me caring for illegal immigrants, MS-13 members, gang members. It was strictly on constitutional rights. There has been no case law to say that illegal immigrants don't deserve Fifth Amendment rights or First Amendment rights, which are clearly being revoked. You would agree that he's not getting due process, correct?
No, there absolutely is case law. You can repel an invasion.
No.
If a nation invades you, are you allowed to repel them? Are you allowed to do that, or do you have to stop every person that invades you and say, well, you have a right to speak and a right to an attorney? These are enemy combatants on our land. You don't have to all of a sudden give them a lawyer.
I mean, if you just don't like American law, that's fine. But people under the jurisdiction of the United States.
If someone invades America, what are we allowed to do?
You're allowed to deport them. Absolutely.
No, forget deporting them. I'm talking about like invasion.
What would you consider an invasion? Are you talking about coming over here with guns?
No, that's it. So MS-13 is a state-sponsored narco-terrorist organization from the government of Venezuela. This is not just a bunch of moms carrying babies. These are military-aged men that were previously in jail that were here with the intent to sow discord and crime and hurt the American people. Therefore, they are an enemy force on our land.
Fair, but Garcia wasn't. You can acknowledge that.
No, he was.
He absolutely. It was completely hearsay. Marco Rubio and Caroline Levitt have both lied about that.
Okay,
it was complete hearsay. And to be clear, so for the 260 other people that have not got due process, you were fine with Trump invoking the Aliens Enemies Act to revoke them of due process.
Yeah, we should be 26,000 of them.
It should be 10 million, actually. A lot more than 26,000. Starting with the 10 million that Joe Biden let in like a total dweeb while he was in office. And let's keep going. After that 10 million, let's deport the other 20 million plus or more illegal aliens who were already here before Joey B started his tyrannical term. Also, Kilmar Abrego Garcia literally had MS-13 tattoos on his knuckles. You can look up the picture online. So, how is this a debate that he was a member? I don't know. With all that being said, everybody, I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for tuning in. As always, make sure you comment below. Let us know what you liked about the video, what kind of stuff you want to see in the future. And if you have not already, hit that subscribe button down below. And to those who have subscribed, thank you so much. We appreciate you for returning. See you guys later, and God bless.